Have you ever wondered why some people seem to defy time? You meet them, and they radiate a kind of energy that makes you stop. Their eyes shine, their laughter feels alive, and their presence carries something light, almost ageless. You find out they're in their late 40s or 50s, and you're stunned. They look like they're barely 30, and then comes the inevitable comment. You don't age. Maybe you said it yourself, half in awe, half in envy. But what if I told you this has little to do with genetics, skincare, or the right moisturizer? What if this youthful glow is not a result of physical maintenance, but spiritual alignment? You see, we live in a culture obsessed with appearance, but blind to essence. We chase beauty through procedures, diets, and digital filters, while ignoring the one thing that truly shapes how we show up in the world: our inner life. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But most people never do. Instead, they age rapidly, not because time moves faster for them, but because their soul becomes heavier, buried beneath expectation, resentment, and roles they never chose. On the other hand, there are those who walk through life lighter, not because their journey was easier, but because they learned how to live without becoming bitter. Their skin may wrinkle, but their spirit remains clear, fluid, vibrant. They glow, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. This isn't a mystery, it's a message. In this video, we'll explore what it really means when someone appears younger than their age, not biologically, but spiritually. You'll discover that looking young might be more than a compliment. It could be a sign that your soul has remembered something essential, something eternal. Are you ready to go deeper? It happened on a regular afternoon. Someone looked at her, smiled warmly, and said, "You don't age. Seriously, you look exactly the same as 10 years ago." She smiled back, said thank you as expected, but inside, it hit her. Not with joy, but with something deeper, something hard to describe. It wasn't pride, it wasn't happiness. It was more like a quiet ache, like someone had unknowingly touched a very old scar. Because the truth was, she had aged, just not in the way the world measures time. She had walked through grief. She had stood at the edge of burnout. She had endured the silence of being misunderstood, of choosing solitude over shallowness. And yet through all of that, she had kept her soul intact, not by avoiding pain, but by not allowing it to poison her. And maybe, just maybe, that was why she looked so young. We live in a world that's aging rapidly, not just in numbers but in spirit. Look around. You'll see people in their 20s, with eyes that carry the fatigue of decades. You'll hear voices wrapped in cynicism, faces strained with pressure, bodies moving as if weighed down by invisible burdens. Stress, anxiety, rage, the pandemic of modern adulthood. We're surrounded by a culture that glorifies doing, performing, appearing, yet never asks us to be. So we harden, we wear masks, we rush, we numb, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, our soul begins to wrinkle before our skin does. But there's another kind of human walking among us. The ones who still laugh with wonder, who cries when beauty overwhelms them, who isn't embarrassed by silence. Those who walk slowly, listen deeply, and love without keeping score. They're not naive, they're not lucky, they're simply intact. Carl Jung would call this alignment with the self, where the outer personality, the persona, is no longer at war with the inner truth, where the soul isn't strangled by suppression, and it shows, not just in behavior but in biology. The body reflects what the spirit is carrying. Could it be that youthfulness is not a sign of resistance to time, but of freedom from corruption? That to look young is to have kept your soul unburdened, your heart unarmored, your essence uncynical. That perhaps, just perhaps, some people don't age because they've never betrayed who they are. This isn't about magic. It's not about denial. It's about clarity. And maybe that's the deeper meaning behind the compliment, "You don't age." Maybe it's less about collagen and more about consciousness. So the next time someone says that to you, listen closely. They might not be praising your skin. They might be witnessing your soul. So what exactly is the secret behind this ageless presence? Is it just chance, fortune, good habits? Or could it be that looking young is the natural consequence of being aligned, not with trends, but with truth? As we begin to unpack this mystery, you'll find that it's not about trying to look younger. It's about living in a way that doesn't age your soul. It's not skincare, it's soul care. And there are certain spiritual qualities that, when deeply embodied, act as an invisible shield against the wear and tear of modern life. These qualities aren't external, they're energetic. They arise from how you move through the world, how you process pain, and how you choose peace over performance. And the more integrated they are, the more your very presence begins to reflect something radiant, something quietly eternal. Let's explore 8 of the most powerful spiritual reasons why some people appear younger than their age, not as a trick, but as a testament to a life lived from within. 1. The old soul, the wisdom that keeps you young. Carl Jung once said, "In every adult there lurks a child, an eternal child, something that is always becoming." But he wasn't talking about immaturity. He was pointing to something sacred, the presence of an old soul, someone who carries timeless wisdom not learned in books, but felt in the marrow. Old souls are often mistaken for being quiet, introspective, or even aloof. But beneath that stillness lies a kind of inner stability that many spend their whole lives searching for. They don't chase chaos. They don't panic in discomfort. They observe. They understand. They remember, not facts, but truths. This wisdom doesn't come from avoiding life. It comes from living fully and reflecting deeply. The old soul has walked through fire without becoming ashes. They have failed without growing bitter. They have loved without needing to possess. And in that acceptance, they've developed a peace that radiates outward, into their expression, their energy, even their appearance. When you stand in front of an old soul, you feel it. A presence that is grounded but not heavy, humble but not small, and often young. Not because they are fighting age, but because they are not fighting life. In psychology, we know that stress and resistance accelerate aging. But the old soul flows instead of resisting. They carry no need to impress, no fear of becoming, no denial of time. That freedom creates harmony within, and harmony is beauty. So if you've ever looked at someone and thought, there's something timeless about them, you may have just met an old soul. And if that someone is you, don't be surprised if the mirror agrees. 2. Connection with natural and mystical energy, archetypal harmony. Alan Watts once said, "You are the universe experiencing itself." And those who live by this truth tend to carry an unmistakable ease, a rhythm in their presence that mirrors the natural world itself. There's something undeniably youthful about people who live in harmony with nature. Not because they escape life, but because they know how to move with it. They rise with the sun, eat with intention, breathe deeply, and spend time not just in nature, but as nature. They've stopped resisting the seasons of life, and instead flow with them. From a psychological lens, these individuals are not consumed by constant control or perfectionism. Their nervous systems are more regulated, their bodies less burdened by cortisol and chronic tension, and the result? Less aging, more presence. But there's more to it than biology. Those attuned to natural and mystical energies often operate with a sense of inner guidance, a quiet intuition that tells them when to pause, when to act, when to let go. They feel the subtle shifts in energy around them. They recognize when a space feels wrong, when a relationship drains, when a choice disrupts their balance. And rather than fight it, they listen. This sensitivity isn't a weakness, it's wisdom. It keeps them light. It protects their peace. It filters out what doesn't belong. In a world that's addicted to noise, people who stay close to the rhythms of the earth and the silence of the soul carry a kind of timelessness. Their face reflects serenity, their eyes reflect presence, and their body, free from the tension of fighting life, reflects youth. 3. Deep empathy, the energy that heals and preserves. Empaths often look younger than their age, and it's not because they live an easy life. It's because they feel life so deeply, so truthfully, that they learn to process emotional pain instead of storing it. Empathy is not just the ability to feel others, it's the willingness to hold space without becoming a sponge. And in a world where most people build walls to protect themselves, empaths stay open. They do not absorb out of weakness, but out of courage. Because to stay open in a world that constantly wounds, that's radical strength. Carl Jung spoke of the importance of integrating both light and shadow. Empaths often do this intuitively. They recognize suffering even when it's unspoken, and they don't turn away. Instead, they offer presence, comfort, and healing. But here's the key. They also learn to release. They don't hoard pain. They don't let resentment calcify within. They transmute energy, and that transmutation keeps them light. Empathy becomes an emotional detox. Their bodies are not carrying the weight of suppressed anger, unresolved grief, or fake personas. Instead, their emotional field is clear. Their hearts are soft but strong, and this balance of feeling deeply but not drowning creates a vitality that shows on the outside. You'll notice it in their eyes, in their smile, in the way they listen without judgment. In the spiritual sense, empaths are conduits. They circulate love, truth, and clarity, and in doing so, they renew themselves. So if you've ever wondered why someone seems to glow without trying, look at how they feel. They might just be healing the world and staying young in the process. 4. Inner wisdom, the peace that slows time. There is a kind of beauty that doesn't come from youth, but creates the illusion of it. A serenity so deep, it calms the space around it. A stillness in the eyes that makes you pause. This is the quiet magnetism of someone who lives with inner wisdom. Inner wisdom isn't about knowing everything. It's about not needing to. It's the ability to respond instead of react, to sit with discomfort instead of trying to escape it, to trust that even chaos has its rhythm and even pain has its place. Carl Jung believed that the path to wholeness lies in individuation, the lifelong process of integrating all parts of the self. The wise have walked that path. They've stopped outsourcing their peace to other people's behavior. They've let go of needing to control the uncontrollable, and in doing so, they've reclaimed something precious: their inner center. From a physiological perspective, people who carry less emotional turbulence tend to age more slowly. Why? Because their bodies aren't constantly flooded with the biochemical residue of stress, adrenaline, cortisol, tension. They've chosen perspective over panic, meaning over drama, and this wisdom shows on their face. They smile easily, they speak calmly, they age like trees, weathered by seasons, but grounded in silence. You won't find them chasing trends or performing for approval. Their gaze is steady, their choices are intentional, and their energy is clean. Wisdom doesn't remove pain, but it removes the resistance to it. And that resistance is what ages most people. So if you've ever met someone whose very presence made you feel safe, peaceful, at home, you weren't just seeing a wise person. You were seeing time stand still. 5. Kindness, the lightness that rejuvenates. Kindness is often mistaken for softness, but true kindness, the kind that radiates through someone's presence, is a form of spiritual strength. And strangely enough, it tends to keep people looking young. Why? Because bitterness ages you. Resentment weighs on your skin. Holding on to grudges may harden your boundaries, but it also hardens your face. Meanwhile, those who choose kindness, who forgive, release, and embrace, seem to glow with an inner light that nothing artificial can replicate. Nietzsche once said, "The greatest kindness may lie in the strength not to be bitter." It's easy to be kind when things are easy, but people who practice compassion even in difficulty are the ones who carry something timeless. They move lightly through life, not because they've never been hurt, but because they've refused to let pain define them. From a psychological lens, kind people experience less inner conflict. Their nervous system isn't constantly flaring up in defense or hostility. They are less reactive, more open, and more grounded. Their energy circulates freely, and that flow keeps them alive from within. But this kindness isn't about people-pleasing. It's not performance. It's rooted in authenticity, in a deep, intuitive understanding that being kind doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. Free from the poison of judgment. Free from the illusion of superiority. Free from the emotional aging caused by hatred and regret. Their faces soften with time, not sag. Their smiles deepen, not disappear. And their spirit? Always light. Kindness, when chosen consciously, is not just healing to others. It is a daily self-purification. A spiritual detox that preserves both the soul and the skin. And in a harsh world, that softness becomes power. 6. Adaptability, the flow that protects your vitality. Some people bend with the wind and never break. They adjust, they evolve, they let go. And in doing so, they carry a youthfulness that outlives their years. Adaptability is not about giving up. It's about moving with life instead of fighting it. It's the quiet art of non-resistance, a kind of psychological aikido. These people don't age the same way others do, not because life spares them pain, but because they don't carry it like armor. Think of water. It doesn't resist, it doesn't control. It flows around obstacles, carves through stone, adapts to shape, and yet over time, it transforms everything it touches. Adaptable souls live like water, and like water, they remain fluid, vital, fresh. Carl Jung once said that neurosis is the result of the refusal to accept legitimate suffering. Those who resist life, who cling to old identities, who fear change, age faster. Why? Because rigidity creates stress, and stress, over time, etches itself onto your body. But those who adapt move with grace. They allow loss to teach them. They let uncertainty sharpen their presence. They surrender what they can't control and find peace in what they can. This flexibility preserves not just the spirit, but the very structure of the self. You see it in their posture, in their ease, in how quickly they recover from emotional storms. They don't break under pressure. They bend, absorb, and respond. Adaptability isn't passivity, it's intelligence. It's emotional maturity. It's the refusal to be fossilized by fear. And in a world where change is the only constant, those who embrace it become not only wiser, but younger with every season they survive. 7. Optimism, the bright lens that slows aging. Optimism is often dismissed as naive. But those who truly embody it know it's not blind hope. It's a radical vision. The ability to see darkness and still choose to believe in light. And interestingly, those who see life this way often look that way too. Optimists aren't just lucky, they're internally disciplined. They train their minds to look for meaning, not just misery. They meet adversity not with denial, but with resilience. They understand, as Viktor Frankl wrote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. This shift in mindset changes more than perspective. It changes biology. Research shows that optimistic people have lower levels of stress hormones, better immune function, and even slower cellular aging. Their bodies respond to hope the way a flower responds to sunlight, by opening. But this isn't toxic positivity. True optimism doesn't reject pain. It just doesn't camp in it. It asks, what else could this mean? What can I grow from this? Where is the beauty hiding? And that orientation toward light, toward renewal, creates an energy that radiates. Their eyes stay bright. Their voice holds warmth. Their face relaxes into ease rather than stress. They don't carry the world. They walk through it with curiosity, with faith, with grace. You'll often find them smiling, not because everything is perfect, but because they've chosen to stay open. And openness in a hardened world is youth itself. To be optimistic in a collapsing culture isn't coolish. It's sacred rebellion. And sometimes it's the very reason your spirit and your skin still shine. The energy of the chosen one, purpose as preservation. There's a rare kind of person who walks into a room and shifts the energy without saying a word. They don't seek attention, yet attention finds them. Not because they're loud or dazzling, but because they carry something. Purpose. In spiritual traditions across the world, there is a recurring archetype, the chosen one. Not in a grandiose, ego-driven sense, but in the quiet awareness that one's life is meant to serve something bigger. People who live this way often appear younger, lighter, more vibrant, because purpose protects them. It gives them direction. It gives them meaning. And most importantly, it gives them resilience. Carl Jung believed that wholeness requires a sense of individuation, a calling to become who you truly are. When people live out that calling, something powerful happens. Their energy becomes concentrated, not scattered. Their stress becomes meaningful, not chaotic. And their suffering becomes a sacred offering, not just a burden. This alignment creates coherence in the soul, and coherence radiates outward. It settles in the nervous system, it reflects in the eyes, it softens the skin. Purpose doesn't mean perfection. It means clarity, and that clarity is magnetic. You'll know these people when you meet them. Their presence heals, their words awaken, their silence comforts. They seem to stand outside of time, not because they're immune to aging, but because they are connected to something eternal. Their life is a channel, their body becomes a vessel, and their youth a byproduct of living in tune with their divine assignment. Because when you stop living for survival and start living for significance, your soul doesn't just grow, it glows. We live in a paradox. Never before in history have we had more tools to preserve youth. Anti-aging creams, biohacking routines, cosmetic interventions, filtered realities. And yet, never before have we seen so many spiritually aged people. People in their 20s are already worn down by cynicism. People in their 30s are crushed by invisible expectations. People in their 40s who've long abandoned their souls. So maybe it's time we ask a different question. Not how to look younger, but why we look older in the first place. Carl Jung warned of what he called the midlife crisis of meaning, a period when the ego no longer suffices and the soul begins to demand recognition. But in today's world, that demand comes earlier and more intensely, because we've built a culture that rewards performance but punishes presence, that idolizes speed but devalues depth. We are constantly connected, but existentially disconnected. Disconnected from nature, from silence, from the cycles of life, from the rituals that ground us, from the inner voice that once whispered truths but has now been drowned out by noise. And this disconnection doesn't just damage the soul, it shows up in the body. A face hardened by self-betrayal, eyes dimmed by too many false yeses, a posture shaped by the weight of pretending, a heart racing from anxiety but paralyzed by inertia. These are not signs of aging, they are symptoms of forgetting who you are. But here's the good news, the opposite is also true. When you begin to reclaim your soul, when you choose stillness over stimulation, when you allow your tears to soften you instead of shame you, something miraculous happens. You de-age, not in the Hollywood sense, not in a way that erases lines, but in a way that brings back light. People notice it before you do. They say, there's something different about you. They think it's a haircut, a vacation, a new romance, but it's not. It's reconnection with your breath, with your values, with your inner child, with the self Jung spoke of, not the false self built to survive, but the authentic self born to live. This is why some people look younger than they are, because they're not living. They're participating in it, fully, consciously, spiritually. They have not escaped pain, but they have refused to be shaped by it. They've kept their heart open, even when they broke. They've stayed curious, even when disillusioned. And they've chosen to believe, not in fantasies, but in meaning. In a world that's spiritually aging by the second, these souls are walking contradictions, not because time forgot them, but because they remembered who they are. So what does it truly mean to appear younger than your age? It means you have chosen, consciously or unconsciously, to remain whole in a world that fractures people. It means your soul has refused to close, even when life tried to shut it down. It means you have remembered something the world keeps trying to make you forget, that your essence, not your image, is what truly shines. The truth is, youth isn't just biology, it's a biography. It's the story you're telling with your energy, your choices, your healing. And when you live from the inside out, not outside in, you reverse something far more important than time. You reverse the disconnection. Carl Jung believed that most people don't become fully themselves. They remain trapped in masks, bound by projections, afraid of their own depth. But when you begin the journey back to your true self, through honesty, stillness, compassion, courage, you realign with the source of all vitality. You stop aging against life. You begin growing with it. So if people tell you that you look young for your age, smile. But also, pause. Ask yourself, is it possible I've simply stayed close to my soul? Have you allowed joy to visit often? Have you forgiven more than you held on to? Have you chosen wonder over weariness, curiosity over control, love over fear? Because these are not small things. These are soul-preserving practices. And if you haven't started yet, it's never too late. Your spirit doesn't age the way your body does. It's never too old to remember how to be light again. So take a deep breath. Drop the mask. Stop running from silence. Listen. There is a version of you, not younger, but truer, who has been waiting for your return. Let that be your skincare. Let that be your anti-aging secret. Let that be your revolution. Because in a world obsessed with looking younger, the most powerful thing you can do is to become timeless. If this message touched something deep within you, don't let it fade. Hit the like button to let us know this kind of content matters. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next awakening journey we're about to share. And most importantly, share your voice in the comments. What part of this resonated with you the most? Which insight spoke directly to your spirit? Your story might just be the mirror someone else needs. We're building more than a channel here. We're building a conscious community. Thank you for being part of it. Stay radiant, stay real, and we'll see you in the next video.